Good morning. Hope you're all okay. Keep crashing into my desk. Happy Monday. There's only like 3 weeks today. 3 weeks today is Christmas Day? No? Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. I'm so confused. 3 weeks today is Christmas Day. This is insane. I think I'm just starting to get excited now. I love Christmas, but I feel like it's not really come around yet. But then we had snow yesterday and my snowman's head's just fallen off in the garden. So there's a Sheffield United scarf outside dying on the grass that can actually stay there now because, Sheffield United. So this morning we're talking about managing your workload. If you see a couple of different lives, it's because we called it managing workflow for some reason. But it's about managing your workload. Ooh, the light all just changed. And I think something like this is really important getting up to Christmas because we often tend to feel that we've got to finish everything as Christmas starts and that we want to get everything out of the way. And I certainly feel like this. I almost have this idea in my head, if I can clear everything out, then I can be off for Christmas. And while that's true, it's not always realistic. It's not always possible. So kind of the first part of what I wanted to talk to you about today is, are you being realistic about what you can do in the time that you've got? Are you being realistic about the kind of work that will actually move your business forwards? And we've got a bit of a prioritization kind of graph to show you in a little bit. But this idea of being realistic. So if I asked lots of the women that I work with, like, show me their to-do lists, I know how ridiculous they would be. And that's okay because we do all have a lot to do. But then we have to start splitting up a little bit and deciding, okay, so what is it that only I can do? What could I outsource? And outsourcing is a huge contentious issue with new business owners or small business owners because we buy into this idea that you can't afford to outsource. And although, again, there's a kernel of truth in that, the fact of all of this is you need to be doing the work that brings you the money in, not all the other faffy work that takes you ages, that doesn't directly influence your sales, that somebody else could do. So there'll be certain elements in your business that only you can do. Anything else, technically, could be outsourced. Now, you won't be able to afford to outsource everything, but certain things, and I'm thinking of things like scheduling your social media, writing you some social media posts. So in my business, I have to show up and deliver this live. Jade's written me the notes for it. So although I am confident enough to be able to talk around the subject, Jade's written me some bullet points that I can pick up and do. But it means that I can just rock up and do this at this point. I haven't had to spend the weekend thinking about what I need to say. To be fair, for lots of it I have, because under the first column it says, are you being realistic? And Jade said, you can just do this bit. Oh, there's my notes. Thanks for that. And she's right. But still, it kind of keeps me on topic without me having to put that extra bit of work in. If I need to create slides for presentation, depending what they are, someone else could do me the research. For some of them, someone else can put the slides together for me. I have to show up and deliver it. And I might want an overarching kind of control over it, but someone else can do the basic work for me because that bit doesn't have to be me. And I know it will always come back to money, and that's okay. But I really want you to start thinking of how much money it takes you to build your own website, how much time it takes you to build your own website. What could you be doing in that time instead that would get sales in? And it's figuring out how to manipulate the amount of time that you've got, because we've all got the same amount of time. So when we talk about your workload, let's talk about whether you're being realistic and whether you're working in the zone that brings you the most money and is the zone that you need to work in. It's really scary to delegate stuff. It's really hard to believe that anyone can do it as well as you can. And they might not be able to, but it might not matter either. And it's that line. Like a couple of years ago, there's no way I could let someone else write notes for live for me. No way. Now I can absolutely be confident enough to rock up and know that there will be something here that I can look through and I can talk around, because that's all that it is, because I know my job well enough. So it's figuring out in your business, are you being realistic? And the other part of this, are you being realistic, is, are you setting yourself up to fail from the start? So if you know you have some massive jobs to do, but you're avoiding them because you're doing social media or building your website, are you being realistic about the income that they could generate? Say you want to create a course, for example, but instead you start making the social media that's going to accompany the course, or writing your sales pages for it, but you've not written anything yet, or you don't even know what the course is going to look like. Are you ever going to get around to it? Could you have written the first chunk of the course, sold it, and kept building as you go, but you've done the thing to get it on sale? This is the thing that we keep coming up against, is get something on sale and make it afterwards if you need to. You can do pre-orders, you can do whatever you need, but we're often avoiding doing the actual thing, and we'll do all the stuff around it first. Do the thing first. There's a book, we did Biz Detox on Wednesday, and both of the speakers talked about the book Eat That Frog. And it's a really, really good book, but it goes on a long time, about this whole concept of do the hard stuff first, do the big things first, get them out of the way, and then see what time you've got left for the little stuff. So when I talk about are you being realistic, is put your big chunk tasks in first, into your diary, into your calendar. The analogy in this is, say you have a jar and you fill it with sand, then there's no space for the rocks, and the rocks are the big jobs that you need to get done. If you put the rocks in the jar first, you can fill around the edges with sand afterwards. But this idea of how do you prioritize to manage your workload? So there's loads of ways to do things like that, and it depends what kind of person you are, how you think. I have different ways, and actually I bounce between them sometimes, and that's just part of how my brain works. And knowing that about yourself is really, really important. So first thing is write down all of your tasks, and I really do mean a proper exhaustive list. This is a real snuggled up afternoon job with a cuppa where you just write a list and you keep going and you keep going and you keep going. And these are things like get your accounts up to date, and start looking at which are one-off tasks and which can be broken down into recurring tasks. So things like get your accounts up to date, you could do that on the first Monday of the month, every single month. And you could make that into a monthly task. You could do it weekly if that's worked better for you. I will often check my Xero account a couple of times a week, because I find that with my ADHD brain, I find that much more easy than sitting down once a month to try and go through a big list. So start looking at all the tasks that you need to do, that you want to do, and start understanding where they fit. Start seeing if you can break some of the bigger ones down into routine, smaller tasks, because the idea of doing your accounts once a year versus doing them once a week, it's such a different feeling, because once a year makes it into a big, huge job. Once a week is a tiny little job that you just tick off your list every single week. So really start looking at what you can break down into big one-off tasks and then routine activities. You might have a little other list. I sometimes have. It's almost like a problems to solve list. It's like stuff that I need to do, but I don't really know how to do it yet. So it needs to sit over there till I've got time to figure it out. And then within my list, so we all know I'm a big fan of the Eisenhower box. If you're not in the free business club, if you go to philsfreebusiness.com and join the free club, all of my downloadables are in there for you. And the Eisenhower box is one of those. And I use that to plot out my stuff. But before I get to that, one of the things that I often put in my Eisenhower box somewhere is a power hour. And what I include in that power hour is a list of, I call them 2-minute tasks. So look at those tasks that won't take very long and clump them all together. So I'll almost have an ongoing list through the week of stuff I need to do, but it doesn't take very long. And I'll kind of clump them and make it into a bit of a, how many can I get through in an hour? And I say 2-minute tasks, I sort of mean 2-minute brain space. So it might be like ring the dentist, which we all know isn't 2 minutes because you could be on hold for 10. But it's almost like it's one of those little tasks that interrupts everything else, that it's not an urgent task. It just sits in my power hour of stuff I can tick off. So start looking at your 2-minute task and put them in a pile and do them together in one lump sum. That works really well for me. And that's generally a bit of a Friday task for me, is I have a power hour challenge with myself. Then through my big, huge list, I'll look at tasks that have got an immovable deadline. So something that has to be done by a certain date. That goes in my calendar, but then I really break that task down a little bit and look at So what do I need to have done by when? So for example, if I am showing up teaching a course the week before, so if it's a course I've taught before, I'll usually tag in my calendar the week before to print out my notes, to check my slides, and to print out the workbooks. And I will make sure that's scheduled time in my calendar to do that, because then when the course comes around, I'm already done. I cannot explain the calming control feeling that comes from having a little plastic wallet that I can pick up on the morning of the course and shove in my laptop bag, knowing that everything is together. I've downloaded my presentation, I've saved it offline on my desktop, so I know if the internet goes down, it's still available. It's kind of the stuff that I know I'm teaching that course that day. What do I need to do beforehand? If I'm writing a new course, I will try and chunk that down as much in advance as I can. So I'll look through my calendar. So I've got a course for Virgin Media in January, and I'm already making the slides for it, but I can only do that because I put the date in my diary. Then I looked at the closest bit of time that I had where I could start working on it. And so I will chunk it down in my diary and try and get that stuff done so that I'm never up against the, oh my God, it's my talk next week and I ain't done my slides. I still do that a lot, but a lot less than I used to. So start looking at, if I've got a completion date that has to be done, what do I need to do before that? And so as soon as I know that task, I'll start working backwards from it and put it in my calendar. Anyone who knows me, you all know I live off my Google Calendar. If it's not in there, it just doesn't happen. I've got better at using the tasks that get assigned to it, so I can put in dates on there. But having chunks of time in my calendar that I have chosen to spend on something, that is how my brain works for me. So have a look at your tasks and really make sure that they're refined enough. Get as much information as you need before you put them in. So I will often have been asked to do a talk on something. I've been given a title, and it's this idea. Sometimes I might need to clarify what is actually involved in it, or I might need to send them an idea for them to okay before I can even start on it. That's a nightmare if I get to a week out and I'm just starting to write my slides and I realise suddenly, which happens semi-frequently, that I don't actually know what the heck I'm writing about because I've just got vague information. So on this idea, before you put stuff in your calendar, really, really make sure you have everything that you need to be able to start working on that task. Then when we talk about priorities, this is where we get really muddled between what is urgent and what is important. And even when we talk about urgent, who is it urgent for? So sometimes I will get requests from people and it's urgent for them, but actually I'm in the middle of something. I've got something really important going on. It's not urgent for me. And that is a really tricky thing to manage sometimes, but it's that knowledge of, is this urgent for me or for them? You could always respond and say, yeah, no problem. I'll get to it next week. I'll get to it on Tuesday. Don't tell them a day if you do not know you can do it that day. Don't commit to something that you don't know. But acknowledge and reply. So I can get someone saying, Roxanne, I need this update on my website. And I can say, that's fine. I will look at it next week and I'll let you know when I'm going to do it. Or I can say, right, that's fine. I've scheduled it in for Wednesday, as long as I absolutely know that that's the truth. But it doesn't mean I have to drop everything to start working on it there and then. And that is the real temptation a lot of the time because it feels urgent. Or it feels like this is a nice, easy task I could slot in ahead of that hard task that I'm putting off. Get really honest with yourself. So when I'm talking about prioritizing, I really want you to think about prioritizing your work based on the impact and the effort. So I don't know if I can show you this. Let me see if I can make it big. Jeez, I mean, lovely. Oh God, too big. Don't have to move anything on this screen because that's not what it's for. Ooh. Right, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but I could faff around with it for too long. So there's a little graph here, it'll be back to front, that kind of shows high impact, high effort, low impact, and low effort. So when we talk about your work, I want you to plot it on the graph. And the idea is that you want the stuff, I can't see which way around it is, that's the lowest effort but the highest impact on your business. So anything in this square is the best thing that you could be working on. Now, there will be stuff that's high effort and high impact, and that's still really, really important to acknowledge. the more times you create something that's repeatable, the less effort it is. So the first time I run a course, that's high effort, but it has high impact. But then I can rerun that course again for a different company or for another run through for that same one. And each time I run that course, there's less and less effort involved because I've had to create nothing from scratch. I've just had to show up and do it. So it's starting to look at in your business where your tasks sit and where they could sit. Could you create something that is a lot of energy the first time, potentially a lot of effort, but each time you do it, it's easier and easier. This morning we started our day off doing Faye Froggatt Brown's advent calendar. So she does a yoga advent calendar. So Jade and I did it in the office this morning. The first time she created that, so it's videos. Is it 12 days of Christmas or is it a full advent calendar? I can't remember. The first time she recorded all those videos, it will have taken her ages. But if she gets to reuse them again for the next advent calendar next year, there's literally nothing to do. She can reuse the same sales page, can reuse the email sequence that goes out every single day. There's nothing extra to add to it. So it might be a high impact, high effort job one time, and then it becomes much more low effort, but still high impact the next time. So when you're looking at your tasks, could you switch things up? Could you change them around? Could you reuse some of the stuff you've already done? When I talk about social media scheduling, I bang on and on and on. So much so that I know you're all sick of it, about Social Bee, because Social Bee is a scheduler that reuses your content. So you can schedule for free in Meta Business Suite, etc. But you put your post out once and it uses it and it's gone. Social Bee can reuse it, and it means that suddenly your social media is running itself. It's what you can change in terms of how you work to keep getting back down that low effort scale part, but still having high impact. And make sure you're clear for you about what impact and effort means to you, because it might mean really, really different things to me. So it could be something like the time it takes, the complexity of it, the uncertainty, whether I know how to do this or whether I don't. It might mean different things to you than it does to me. Low effort to me is usually time. It doesn't take me too long to do, because that is my most valuable commodity in my business and life right now. It might not be the same for you. And then my high impact for me brings me in the most money, or the most opportunities potentially, like some of the networking stuff I do, and the impact of helping people, like genuinely being able to say that their businesses move forward because of stuff we've done together. Like that matters for me a lot. So start with the quick wins when you look at your tasks. Start with the low impact, low effort, high impact wins, the really quick stuff. In the bottom right, the thankless tasks that are high effort but low impact, really, really look at those. Do you need to be doing them? Do you need to be doing them in the same way? Could somebody else do them for you? That's kind of the quadrant that if you're putting in a lot of effort and not getting much out of it, there's got to be a different way to look at this. And it might be things like social media, but it's being reused. There might be tons of different things that we can look at. It might be that you've been faffing about with your website forever and it still doesn't show you off as a professional. At times like that, it might be that decision that I'll just invest in that because it is not worth my effort for the impact it's having, because it is a low impact, because it still doesn't look good enough. So it's stuff like that. Start having a look at where your time is best spent. And then the last little bit I want to talk about in all of this, because I could go forever about managing your time and your workload, ask for help. I just sort of touched on it on websites there. I cannot explain how different my business has been since I outsourced stuff, since Jade was employed with me, since Tom came to work with me in April. It makes sense to hire someone for something that you can't do, or it takes up too much time, or just isn't worth it for you, or you wouldn't do well enough. It just makes sense. And for every bit of money you're scared about spending, really think about, right, what could I do instead to create a sale? What could I do to get that money back? And that's almost the game I play with myself in my business. If I'm going to invest in something, I'll create something new to sell, etc., that I know can help bring the money back. Let me have a look. question. Hi, someone. Let me just see who this is because I'm not even in the right place. So what do I use for social media inspiration? So I will generally batch content. Let's see who it is. Jenna, hello, my darling. I will generally batch content. So I will do like 10 Monday motivation posts or whatever. And so I will generally stick to doing things in the same kind of theme. I would put all my blogs out in one go. So I would create 3 social media posts for each blog so that it's the same blog going out, but the image, etc., looks different. I would have freebies going out on there. So I would look at the content I've already got. I would break my blogs down into little social media posts by themselves. And then once I'd run out of everything like that, so bear in mind, I do Monday motivation, I might do Wednesday wisdom, I might do top tips Tuesday or whatever. So I'd start thinking of some themes to make it easy for myself to start with. Once I'd run out of content like that, I would go on ChatGPT and I would type in a prompt like, write me 5 social media posts for professionals about career development, and let it write me some ideas. And then I would change them into my own words and make graphics to go with them. Like, whenever you've got a tool like ChatGPT, inspiration is there forever. It can create stuff out of nothing, but the better you are with the prompts, the easier it is to get stuff that you're looking for. So yeah, I much prefer to do mass uploading Social Bee, but do it in batches, do it in the same kind of thing because it keeps your brain on the same area. He's thinking about the same thing. But when we're doing it, really think about, what does my client want to know? The people that I work with, what are their big problems? What am I answering for them? So are they stuck in their business? Are they stuck in their career? Do they almost feel like they want career advice, but I know they like their job really? So Jen is a career coach, if that wasn't clear. I know they like their job really. Is it a culture thing? What is it that they need to know to move them forwards? And I would start writing content around that. I hope that answers your question. Don't overface yourself. Decide to do it in 10s, etc. Don't attempt to do 50 in one go. Really break it down. If you could write 10 social media posts every fortnight, for example, 5 a week, your Social Bee would be filled up pretty quickly. Especially if we're thinking about every time you write a blog, that can break down into, you can have 3 social media posts for the blog itself, and then you could break some of the paragraphs down into social media posts by themselves, not linking back to the blog, just sharing your expertise. So there's so much that you could write about. So yeah, when we talk about ask for help, think about who you know. This could be friends and family. It's often not, so be careful because they might not get your business the same way that other business owners will. So that's the beautiful thing about our community. It might be something like this, like people you used to work with in the past, like people you meet at networking events, but really, really lean in for help. You might find that there are people in the community who do the stuff that you need doing. And we're really lucky in ours because we build websites, we do social media stuff. There's a heck of a lot. We do loads of tech support. There's so much stuff that you can get help with in this community as well. All right, so I'm going to leave it there unless there's any more questions, because honestly, I could talk about workload forever. I think the biggest thing I did is this idea of just write your list constantly, but then plot your list into something useful. Because if you just have a list, you'll pick off the easy stuff to do. That is, of course, the thing. You will pick off the stuff that's easiest to do. Write your list, then plot it into something so you can see where it is more helpful for you to be working, and then put it in your calendar. So like I said, if I've got a talk coming up in January, I need to have space in my calendar to do the slides. I need to have space in my calendar to almost do a test run through of the talk to check that my timing is semi-okay. Make sure that you are looking at the task as a whole and then splitting it up, moving it forwards into what I could be doing on this now. I know that having done my Virgin slides before Christmas, when it comes around in January, it's such an easy job to rock up and do this. So it's things like that. Look at the tasks you've got, look at the deadlines on them, move them up as much as you can, and almost get ahead of yourself. All right, if you're coming co-working, I will see you in half an hour. He's chucking it down, so drive safe. Jason says it's starting to flood a little bit because of the snow melting and the rain, so fun. So I will see you at co-working really, really soon if you're there. We're staying on for a little lunch and drinks afterwards. There's a little Christmas thing. And then I'm back with a Facebook Live next week. And then on the Monday after, we have our last monthly meetup. So that's networking and training on the 18th. And then the last Facebook Live after that for Christmas. And then I'm off for nearly 3 weeks. And the beautiful thing is, without me telling you, you won't really know that I'm off because my social media will be doing itself. Hopefully, because Jay's done it, I hope.
Still doing it.
She's still doing it. But this idea is that you can buy yourself that space if you manage your workload well. All right, so see you for co-working really soon. If you haven't booked on and you're local and you realise, crap, I didn't realise it was today, come along. There's 2 spaces left, but we'll squish in if we need to. There might only be 1 space, but it's fine. Just come. Otherwise, I will see you next Monday at 9:30. All right, ladies, have the best week. I'm here if you need anything. Bye.